everyone. Namaskar. I hope I am audible. At least Twitter says I'm audible, so that's great. And we'll give everyone a couple of minutes to join, and then we can get started on Mahabharata and Karna. So, folks, for those who are joining the second spaces on Mahabharata and Karna for the first time, we had the first one a couple of days back on Tuesday, and that was recorded. So at least for the 28 days or whatever Twitter's policy is on retaining the audio recordings of these spaces is going to be available. So if you go to Twitter and look at this tweet, uh, in the embedded tweet or one of the tweets, there is a recording for the first of this episodes on Mahabharata and Karna. And we are going to continue essentially the same line of thought, the same stream of thought as we did with the first one. So, by way of introductions and setting the context, I'll take the next couple of minutes in doing just that. So, my name is Abhinav Agarwal. I am hosting this Twitter Spaces discussion on Mahabharata and Karna. And we have a bunch of very qualified people with us to talk about different aspects, different subjects on Mahabharata and specifically Karna. So what we are doing is we decided to spend a couple of discussions, couple of spaces on talking about Karna, and then we'll take it from there and see how to expand it, how to continue it, and what are the topics to cover. So obviously, if you have any suggestions and questions, please send any and all of them via Twitter. So coming now to the topic, we have had over the past several decades, and in fact, I mean, if you go back hundreds of years, we have had lots of books and kavyas and texts that have come up on the Mahabharata, and specifically when it comes to Karna, there has been a lot of what I would say mythification, deification, glorification, hero worship, a whole lot of distortions and misrepresentations and outright fabrications also that have happened when it comes to Karna. He's obviously a very interesting as well as pivotal figure in the Mahabharata, obviously being the eldest of Kunti's sons and all. And there is an entire parva that is dedicated to Karna, the Karna parv that follows the Bhishma and the Drona parvs. So what we wanted to do was just take a look at some of those distortions that have taken place, and in what way they are, in many ways, they are unfair to the Mahabharata itself. And we wanted to set some baseline, right? So when we are talking of some topic like, okay, this deviates from the Mahabharata, this is not there in the Mahabharata, then we have to all agree upon what exactly are we talking about when we say this deviates from Mahabharata. And to that end, we also said, let's take the critical edition of the Mahabharata that was compiled over a period of almost 4 decades by the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute, which, by the way, was mentioned by the Prime Minister in one of episodes, I believe, Man Ki Baat episodes. But leaving that aside, it is considered one of the most authoritative editions of the Mahabharata, and scholars like Professor Vishwa Adluri have said that if you take the Mahabharata critical edition and the critical apparatus, you have essentially every single Mahabharata that the Bhandarkar Institute looked at in compiling the critical edition available with you. So that is the basis for our discussion. So without further ado, I'd like to start with our speakers and hosts. So I would like to invite BV or Bharati first. She is, by the way, so not only is she a co-author in an anthology on the Mahabharata, Unsung Valor, forgotten tales from the Mahabharata war, from the Kurukshetra war. It was published by Bloomsbury, and I strongly encourage everyone to get a copy. It is available both as a Kindle ebook and as a paperback, and it contains 10 stories written by 10 authors, and Bharati is one of them, and she has also, I believe, also published her second book on life experiences and advice from parenting, which is a very light-hearted and irreverent look at it. Definitely, please also get that book. Now, Bharati, I believe you are a speaker now, right? Are you or no? Okay, so I have invited you to speak, and I believe you wanted to talk about one particular topic related to Karn's birth, and we can do that. And in the meantime, while we are waiting for you to become a speaker, there were a couple of questions also that came up on Twitter. I'll see if I can dig them up and read them out while we are waiting. So, one Mr. Vijay Krishnan had a question that he says in the Tamil Mahabharata, written by the 15th century Vaishnava poet Viliputharar, it is Duryodhan who orders the Vastraharan of Devi Draupadi as against Karna. The Tamil version is also charitable to Karna. And another question that he says he has is, and which is hotly contested, whether Dronacharya refused Karna. This point itself has done a lot for Karna's victim card and deification. In fact, very interesting questions. The second one, whether Dronacharya refused to teach Karna or not, was covered in detail by Pranshu in uh, Tuesday's podcast. So I will, towards sometime somewhere in the middle, I'll request Pranshu if he is, yes, he is here to tell us or maybe repeat, what he had talked about this particular episode that has been created that Dronacharya refused to teach Karn. Let's also deal with it. So, so is uh, is Bharati there? Can she? I'm trying to see if she's there. If anyone can spot her as a listener, please let me know. So I have sent her an invite to speak.
Yeah, I have also sent her an invite.
So you know what?
So,
If she's having problems connecting, we can
oh,
come
she
back.
can't see an invite. She says she cannot see an invite. So, Bharti, you can also make a request.
I did. I have invited her to speak a couple of times. Yeah, it has been invited to speak, so she should. Let's do one thing. In that case, if I may request Roopal to come in and and uh, yes, you are a speaker. So Roopal, do you want to tell us which particular aspect of Kern you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, hi. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
thank you. Yeah, so like there are several myths surrounding Kern, of course, and one of them, which is very much highlighted now, is that he belonged to a low caste, and that's how like he was oppressed because of his caste, and uh, he was not given opportunities because of his caste, and he was generally like everyone were the Kshatriyas and they looked down upon him, and the Brahmins, they also looked down upon him. So, this is one myth that I want to burst today. That first of all, Karn did not belong to a low caste. Like Adhirath, his adoptive father, he was a Sooth. He was not a low caste because Sooth itself is not a low caste. One thing about Sooth is that in Harivansh Puran, it is written that when the great king Prithu, after whom our planet is named Prithvi, when he was conducting his sacrifice, at that time, Lord Brahma himself had created the Sutas to sing praises of King Prithu. So the Sutas, they were bards, first of all, they were charioteers, they were created for a very nice purpose, along with the Magadhas. Secondly, this is a very old tale, of course. In Mahabharat context, there are like Sooth is not a low caste. First of all, it is basically a mixed Varn of a Kshatriya man marrying a Brahmin woman. There were two types of basically two broad type of marriages. One was Anulom and the other was Pratilom. Anulom marriages when the groom is of a higher caste or the same caste as the bride, and the opposite was the Pratilom, where the bride belongs to a higher caste. So when a Brahmin woman married a Kshatriya man, then the mixed Varn, the kids belonged to the mixed Varn, and that Varn was Sooth. And Sooth were not low caste. So saying that Karn belonged to a low caste is one of the biggest myths. It is not. Sooth, some of the famous Sooth of the Mahabharata, in the epic itself, the very first one we encounter is Ugrashrava Sauti, the man who actually recites the Mahabharata to the sages in Naimisharanya. And the way the dialogue starts, it is like both are the Brahmins, the sages, as well as Ugrashrava Sauti. They are both basically talking to each other in a way that is so respectful. So obviously, Sooth cannot be a low caste. It's right there. And they are like inviting him, please come and recite us this story. And he starts reciting the story of Mahabharata. And Ugrashrava Sauti is the son of another famous bard, Lom Harshan or Rom Harshan, he was called. Then another very famous Sooth of Mahabharata is Kichak. Kichak was the brother of Queen Sudeshna of Matsya kingdom. He was the commander in chief of the forces of the kingdom. He was the most powerful man in the kingdom, someone whom even King Virat could not oppose. Then there is, of course, Karn. He, Bharti will probably speak more on the lineage of Karn, so that we know that he did not belong to any low caste. Adhirath did not belong to any, um, what you say, a low line of people or anything. So Bharti will, of course, go into detail on that. Then they were the Kekaya princes. They were also Suta, and they fought the war from the Pandava camp. So if there is something that people believe that Pandava elitist and they did not basically like lower caste people or anything, first of all, they were not. The Kekayas were fighting for them. And secondly, Sooth is not a low caste at all, in any case, to begin with.
Yeah.
So,
So hi. So I'll just confirm on that.
hey, Pranshu,
So
please, yeah,
in the
go ahead.
Puran, in the Puran, every seventh generation. So the seventh generation uh, of a Sooth family from basically becomes a Brahmin in the Brahmani's original Brahmani's guild itself, in original Brahmani's Gotra itself. And so that's why Sooth were created as a Yagna officials, as you described during the sacrifice of King Prathu. And famous ones actually around them were like from the very beginning. Uh, Bhim's foster mother, her daughter Dhatranayika, is the one who helps Draupadi fight against Jayadratha. When Jayadratha comes to kidnap, she is a Sut Putri. Uh, then Bhim's best friend, like Neel, king of Anup. So there were two kingdoms, and again the same story, which basically in Prathu, they said the two kingdoms, Ang and Anup, were assigned to the Sutas as their kingdoms.
Fascinating, fascinating, Pranshu. This is something more we learned.
And
So
another thing is Shardandhyani, right? So, Roopal mentioned about the Kekais. So Kekai king basically Madhishketu married the of Kunti, and he was a Sut Putra. And Shardandhyani's family basically also has the familial, like from the mother's side, they are descended from Shantanu. So there was Sutas from the Shantanu side as well. So basically, there was a continuous intermarriage between Kshatriyas, Sutas, and Brahmanas, which did not bring any sort of a caste depreciation on anybody. So that's basically where this is basically a modern myth making, basically, that there's a upper lower caste in that context.
so
Exactly. I
a
mean,
couple of a couple of takeaways are so far, from what you have just said, Rupal and Pranshu, is that it seems these authors could not find enough material to paint or to hand over Karn a victim card in their imagination, so they had to invent reasons that have not existed in the Mahabharata. That
I'll give
he
you the
was
most
a
famous. Yeah, the most
that's
famous Sut in Mahabharata is Krishan. Krishan is a daughter, is a child originating from Devyani, a Brahmani, and Yayati, a Kshatriya. All the Yadus, all the Yadas were Sutas, right? So, and
exactly.
he is a charioteer, right there, and so is
Ex-
Shalle.
and
so
this is like something that when the story of Mahabharata told and retold so many times, somewhere along the line, I think someone misunderstood Sut for Shudra, and they started, suddenly Karn was
No,
pulled
so
down
in
from.
various imaginings, especially like Telugu, wanted to create some normal characters, characters people who are listening to the tales they identify with. So he created some characters like the boatman's son and others, basically, which would come out as basically working class or working caste people, and later on that boatman's son was conflated into Kern by the later authors. So see, I'm saying you're right. Like it's like somebody mistaking Sooth for Shudra, and then later on, when the other authors from Ninna onwards, they started creating new characters. These characters got conflated into the existing Mahabharat characters also.
Exactly.
So
And another thing is that people tend to equate being a charioteer to being like like suppose say a driver of today. That the sahab and the meme sahab will order the poor guy around, go here, go that, come this time, wait outside, and all that. And the poor man, like, he can do nothing except just follow them. But it was not the case for the charioteers of that time. I mean, they were highly respected people. They were
and this is
really not like that. They were warriors themselves.
correct,
And
and we covered this in the first episode where Krishna is Arjun's Sarathi, the charioteer, and Karn's charioteer is Shalle, himself a
exactly,
great king.
exactly.
So,
And the thing is, Yudhishthir's charioteer was Indrasen. He was also a Kshatriya. Bhim's charioteer was Vishok. He was a son of Krishna himself. And
fascinating. So people seem to, I think. So here is one thought before I'll hand it back to you, Rupal, or maybe if Bharati is now, I see she is a speaker now. So see, it is, I think, entirely acceptable if an author wants to retell the Mahabharata and maybe change some aspects of the tale, story, as per it would fall under what I would call creative license, artistic
Exactly.
license, which is fine.
Exactly.
Yep.
But
Yep.
what is, I believe, not acceptable is if you say that, oh, but this is Mahabharata. No, that is wrong.
Exactly.
If you're
Exactly.
if you're taking something, if you're changing some core aspects of it, then it no longer becomes a retelling or a reimagination. It becomes more in the area of you are misinterpreting an epic based on your likes and dislikes and prejudices and whatnot. It is, in my mind, one of the laziest forms of storytelling. You cannot come up with your own imagination to come up with an entirely new story. So you find it very easy to take a famous epic that everyone knows and you inject slight, subtle, or not so
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
uh,
Yeah, I could not hear you at
so
all.
in
Yeah.
any case, I mean, I'll stop my rant. Bharati, if you can speak now, or Rupal, if you wanted to finish up, please do, and then I'll invite Bharati to talk.
Yeah, yeah. I will just finish up with the charioteer thing. That one thing that people need to understand is that there was a very fine relationship, if you will say, between a Rathi and a Sarathi. A war charioteer was not a joke. Like, if you imagine the scenario, it is like you are commanding the war horses in a war situation where arrows are coming at you, people are attacking you all the time, and you have also to protect your Rathi. You have to also navigate through everything. So, in this aspect, I would like to draw the attention of something that was shown in the televised version of B.R. Chopra's Mahabharat, that they showed the Sarathis to be like, puny guys compared to the Rathis standing behind them. I mean, it is so laughable if you think, how can you expect that kind of a guy to be able to control those horses in warlike situations? I mean, this kind of misrepresentation is what makes people think that, oh, this must be it. Because, like you said, when you have creative writing, so much creative writing on Mahabharata, and I love it. Personally, I love it. But the thing is, when people are not aware of what the actual epic has inside it, then it gives rise to all sorts of misconceptions. And when the television medium, the whenever it appeals to our visual senses, it's so strong. It that's what people imbibe. They think this is what it is. And the image of Karn as a poor, lowly fellow, it becomes even more pronounced by this, that he belonged to poor guy. He was a Kshatriya and he was thrown among people who were like pitiful, who were puny, who did not have high aspirations or something. That is so wrong. This is what has basically given rise to these misconceptions. So I would now basically I want Bharti to talk about Karna's birth, and then I'll come back for other myths about Karna.
Thank you, Rupal. And I'll add one point of clarification. I have an issue. I have a problem with the modern day retellings, imaginations of the Mahabharata. More exercises in distortions and misrepresentations. I think we have some very fine adaptations and retellings that have taken place, and I think Unsung Valor is one exceptional example of that. Rupal and Bharati and Pranshu and everyone who contributed a story, one of the 10 stories, deserves a huge round of applause for in walking that fine rope between staying true to the epic, but on the other hand also being able to manage something fresh in those retellings. So by all means, I have no problems with retellings. It's when people start taking creative liberties, and in like we read just some time back, there's a horrible distortion about the message that Krishna gives to Arjun at the end of the war when he asks him to step down from the chariot, and Arjun says that no, Krishna, step down first, and Krishna says the reason I'm telling you to step down is for is very there. And when Arjun steps down, he sees, and then Krishna, when he steps down from the chariot, the entire chariot bursts into flames, and Krishna says, as long as I sat in the chariot, it appeared intact to the world because it had already been destroyed by the enemy's arrows. And this fellow distorts it into saying that the chariot had been destroyed by Karna. This is
Yeah,
this.
actually,
I have
that is
no
a
words.
misrepresentation, basically, because war chariots being destroyed in war was not a big deal. Everyone's chariot got destroyed in war, literally everyone's. And here we are talking about Arjun, who was on the front lines, who had been fighting from day one, who was leading
Bhim,
the.
right? Bhim himself destroyed, so many countless chariots, including one of his Guru Dronacharya.
Exactly. Everyone's chariot got destroyed. It was not a big deal. And frankly, like this speaks more of the divinity aspect of Krishna than it being anyone else's prowess. Like, obviously, there were so many weapons fired at the chariot. So
So,
it's really not a big deal if it got destroyed.
okay, I also see a very distinguished listener in our spaces today. Gautam Chikermane has joined us, and thank you, Gautam ji, for joining us. It's a huge, pleasant surprise. I have sent you a speaker request, and we'd love to hear from you. In people, if in case you don't know, uh, Gautam himself is a very fine writer as well as a fan of the Mahabharata, and some of his writings on the Mahabharata you should definitely go and read. And he also wrote a book a few years back on some of the lesser known characters of the Mahabharata, and this one was on gosh, the name, I forget the name. The person who was sent by Vidur to Varanawat to dig the tunnel and save the Pandavas. Right? It's a very fine book. But in any case,
Kanak, Kanak, the minor.
I the minor, correct,
Kanak
absolutely.
the
Thank
minor.
you, Pranshu. So I'll turn to Bharati now, and you have you want to talk and share some nuggets with us about Karn's Karth, right?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Abhinav. But first, I would like to add one point to what you were talking about the chariot. Um, so, Arjun's chariot is a divine chariot that comes to him at Akadavdan. His Gandhi also, he has to give back the Gandhi also before he leaves on his final journey. In the same way, Krishna's Sudarshan and his chariot and his flag also leave him before he dies. And again, in the same way, uh, Karna's Kavach Kundala taken away by Indra before he dies. So all of these are divine equipment that don't stay with the people until their death. So that is one way to look at it as well. The purpose of the chariot is done once the Kurukshetra war is over. So there is no more need for the chariot to remain with Arjuna. Uh, so getting to my focus today is on the perception of Karna as the eternal victim because he's been abandoned at birth. So first let's look at the circumstances that surround Karna's birth. The first thing that we need to know, the description of Karna's birth, actually what happens in Kunti and Brahmana comes in Kundalharana Parva. First thing we should know is that Kunti is a child herself. So we can't look at Kunti and say, oh, this lady coolly had a child, threw him away, and then went married away. That's not true. Surya actually addresses her as child and says that he forgives her for refusing him only because she's a child. So we need to look at her decisions, her ability to judge her actions from the understanding that she's a child in an impossible situation. And then we have to see Durvasa's boon. As per the text in this place, we have the words of his boon. She refuses a boon from him, and then he says, "No, I'm still going to give you a mantra." And he says, "You can summon the gods, O fortunate one, whichever god you invoke through her will be under your control." So this is kind of an ambiguous choice of words. There's actually a verse that says that she's trying to figure out what the strengths and weaknesses of the mantra are. So probably she doesn't realize she's going to have a child if she invites Surya there. So Surya arrives in fact and he asks her, "What do you want from me?" And only when she asks him to go back does he insist on giving her a child. When she doesn't agree, he says he'll curse his father, the king Kunti Bhoja, and also the Brahmana who gave her the boon. Kunti is terrified and she acquiesces. But even in that situation, the girl has the presence of mind to ask for two boons. One is that she'll remain a virgin. The second is that, that's what we are interested in, that a child will be born with the Kavach Kundal. So we have to remember that this Kavach Kundal that Kunti got for Karna is what kept him safe, not only when he was set afloat, but also ensured that he could not be killed throughout his lifetime until he gave it away before 1 year before the war. Kunti, let's also remember, she did not get this kind of protection for any other Pandava son, any other of her sons, only for her first one. And this Kavach Kundal turned out to be quite a bargaining chip for Karna also. So Indra came down. Indra wanted Kavach Kundal, Karna wanted Vasavi Shakti, and actually Karna refused straight out to give the Kavach Kundal until Indra agreed to give him the Vasavi Shakti. Basically, the Kavach Kundal that Kunti got for Karna helped him rather significantly. Now let's go back to his childhood. Kunti has spies tracking the baby, and she comes to know from the spy that this boy with this celestial armor is safely growing up with Adhirata and Radhe. So next, this is the next horrible misrepresentation we see. Adhirata is portrayed in those movies and also in books as this poor, impoverished guy with dressed in rags and all that. That's nowhere mentioned in the text. Actually, he's mentioned as an old, frail person, which is probably because Karna himself is, like Pranshu was pointing out yesterday, he's about 20 years older than Arjuna. Actually, if you want to know exactly who Adhirata is, he's a prince belonging to the royal family of Anga. He is not a poor, impoverished guy. He actually belongs to the royal family of Anga. You have his whole family tree very clearly given out in Srimad Bhagavad Purana. So we see that his line actually leads right back to Yayati, like everybody does. And Adhirata also is a close friend of Dhritarashtra. So Karna has access to the same privileges as Duryodhana and his brothers do. He is enrolled in Drona school, which Roopal will talk about later. And he gets to be close friends with Duryodhana right from school. So if we look at what Karna's life would have been like, if uh, if he had been Kunti's son, if Kunti had not abandoned him, or let's compare Karna's life with that of Kunti's others, and then we'll know how much he suffered because of Kunti's act. So first thing, for an infant to be cast away is horrible. So Karna was definitely a victim. Pandavas had a grand celebration at birth and all, there was much love with it. And all that. Next, Karna gets the Kavach Kundal because Kurti knows she has to abandon him and she wants to keep him safe. This Kavach Kundal protects him until he reaches Adhirata later also and later helps him get a astra that he needs. Pandavas get nothing like that. Since Karna is adopted by a royal of the Anga family, he is actually leading a princely life in Hastinapur. Ironically, the Pandavas, who are rightful heirs of Pandu, who is the rightful king, spend their childhood in the forest and they are denied Hastinapur. And let's remember, it's not just Pandu who has expanded Hastinapur, it's Arjuna also who expands Hastinapur towards the end of his Gurukul days. So he has a clear contribution towards the kingdom. Now, Karna very much loved by his parents, and his brothers, Radha's other sons, died for him. So he's got a very nice supportive family. Kunti's sons also, obviously, they'll all die for each other. But the elder three lose their father at an early age. The younger two lose both parents. Now, because of Adhiratha's connection with Dhritarashtra, Karna has some very influential friends, princely privileged. But Kunti's sons, even when they come to Hastinapur, though they are Pandu's children, they are treated as outsiders. They have to face assassination attempts day in and day out. And they don't get any support from elders or ministers also, although Duryodhan's dislike is quite public. So we can keep comparing like this and we'll come up with some very interesting things. But the point I'm trying to make is that Karna did suffer a great tragedy at birth. I'm not denying that. But thankfully, he did end up at the right place at the right time. So he got a princely lifestyle that Pandu's heirs had to fight tooth and nail for, although they were the rightful heirs. Now, here comes the princess. Kunti is blamed for not revealing that Karna was her son all his life. That's fair enough. But Karna himself is aware that he was Kunti's son.
Bharati,
Yeah,
can I just stop you for a minute?
yeah,
Gautam Chikermane, Gautam ji just pinged me.
yeah.
He just wants to say a few words, and then he has to leave. So, if you
Yeah,
don't
sure,
mind,
sure. Yeah,
I'd like to request. Yeah. So, Gautam, please go ahead. You are a speaker.
Thank you. Audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. What a privilege. And let me tell all of you here that this is the first time I'm speaking on Twitter Spaces. So please pardon my any lapses. Uh, I was interested in that part of the discussion where you were saying that the story should be not meddled with, and you can do whatever else that you like in terms of what you want to do with the Mahabharata, which is actually a tradition of the Mahabharata itself. Look at the more than 500 editions of the Mahabharata or retellings of the Mahabharata since it was born and until critical edition put it together. I just wanted to say that even within the Mahabharata, there are spaces for creativity. Even if you adhere to the story very precisely. For instance, you mentioned my book, it's called Tunnel of Varanawat. Now, that whole book is based on 6 lines in Ved Vyasa's Mahabharata. The 6 lines are Vidur says to Yudhisthir, somebody will come to see you. A miner presents himself to Yudhisthir and says, Vidur has sent me, let me help you. Yudhisthir says, yes, please help us, oh miner, build a tunnel for us. The miner digs a tunnel, says, he speaks in Malecha language to make sure that Yudhisthir understands. And he digs the tunnel, shows the Pandavas out, and leaves. That's it. 6 lines. He didn't even have a name. Vedvyas didn't give him a name. And from that little thing, I thought that there is so much to be done. Who is this miner? Where has he come from? How are tunnels made? And in all that, that entire book came up on its own. So I just wanted to make a small point that even within the Mahabharata, within the spaces that are left between the characters, within the story, in various circumstances, they just come in a fleeting touch and go, can be made into full-fledged novels where you can expound whatever else that you want to do in terms of creativity, in terms of understanding the historicity, weapon systems, in my case, understanding tunnels and how they function, and examining the other characters. So basically, the idea is to examine the Pandavas or the main story, the Kauravas or Bhishma or whosoever, through the eyes of this one character who is almost like insignificant to the story. That's what I did in Tunnel of Varnavat. My next book, as and when I get free from writing non-fiction, it will be on similar lines. So my point is, you don't have to see, there is enough of Mahabharat stories which are being rewritten, simplified, made accessible for children, for the modern mind, etc., etc. A lot of stuff is happening. But I think the real challenge is to fill these empty spaces within the story, and let your creativity flow, let your knowledge come out, or experiment with your writing styles, and so on. That's what I did. I speak for myself, but I thought this was something that I would have liked to share here, Abhinav.
Thank you so much, Gautam. That is such a very pertinent point, that there are spaces within the Mahabharata where I think an honest writer's creativity and artistic skills can find full expression. I find it the lowest form of creativity to say to write something like Karn, Draupadi always harbored a soft corner for Karn. That is in my mind. So, folks, thank you, Gautam, and folks. Gautam's book
Yeah.
was The Tunnel of Varanawat, and I believe it was published by Roopa a few years back. It's a fabulous, fantastic book. Please do read it. It adds to the corpus of good things of the Mahabharata in my mind.
Thank you, Abhinav. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Abhinav,
you,
can
all
I
of you.
speak? Abhinav, can I speak?
Shivu, absolutely, yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. I fully agree with Gautam ji. In fact, I was just recounting an incident in Mahabharata that is explained after the war is done, where I think Sage Narad explains these stories, where Karna goes to Parashurama, and that story comes in about 3-4 pages. That is all, but it's very intriguing. And like Gautam ji said, there is scope for a lot of filling of empty spaces outside. It is such a short story where Karna goes and tells a lie that he is a Brahmana, learns a lot under Parashurama, even acquires the Brahmastra, but in a practice session ends up killing the cow, and because of that he acquires a curse from one of the Dvijas, comes back, and in the most world famous episode, the worm brings his blood out, and Parashurama realizes the truth, and it's not a curse actually, in the book. It is that because you have acquired it with a lie, you cannot hold on to the Brahmastra anymore. You will have to lose it, and you will have to. It will slip out of you at at a time as most. But in that moment, I found Parashurama with a tinge of sadness, because Karna is a very beloved Shishya to Parashurama. And the fact that he has to lose Karna because of a lie is something that I think hurts Parashurama a little bit. And the tinge of sadness comes out that is really not explored in any of the retellings or renditions so far. And it's a very beautiful, very touching moment where Parashurama cannot not deliver the curse, or rather, cannot take back the ill effects of being Karna being, not truthful. But at the same time, Parashurama is very unhappy that that happens. But he blesses Karna that he will still be very, very difficult to be defeated on the battlefield. It's only the eventual that has to, catch him. So that episode has many empty spaces and many different facets of Parashurama and Karna can be captured. Even the Dvija who comes and goes, his character can be explored. And Karna's own, slippery mind, hold on to his own self. In fact, Parashurama says
you are a Kshatriya, and he does not reflect upon it because he still does not know he's a Kshatriya. He still thinks he's just a Suta. So that's a
Correct.
moment that was lost by Karna. So these beautiful things, every line which is every line which is revealing, I think is still not explored, and there is a lot of creativity that is possible out there.
It is. It is so fascinating, Shivu. And the episode that you talk about when Narad Muni comes is, I believe, right at the start of the Shanti Parva when the
Yeah, that's true.
Rajdharma Parv starts, right?
Yeah, that's true. When Dharmaraja is in discussion with him. Yeah.
He's in discussion, and Yudhishthir is still not agreed to enter Hastinapur.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Okay,
And it
so
is
let's.
important to note that Parshurama, the equation, Parshurama does not demean him as a Suta. It is only because of the lie that he
Correct,
loses
correct.
Brahma.
Uh, can I can I invite either Bharati if your connectivity has improved, or perhaps if I can invite Amrita, who is also an author of this anthology Unsung Valor.
Can you hear me
So
more clearly now, Abhinavji?
I think this is much better than it was
Okay, okay,
the first time round.
okay, good.
Please, yeah, please
Yeah.
continue.
So actually, Shivakumar was talking about that Alarka beetle story. I just wanted to add one thing there. Just like Gautamji was saying, actually Karna himself embellished that story rather nicely. So Narad Muni says that that was a Rakshasa who was cursed to die at as soon as Parshurama sets eyes on him. That's what actually happens. But when Karna recounts the story, he says Indra took the form of a beetle and tried to disrupt my learning under Karna's version. So the ancient example of yellow journalism we have right there. So yeah, uh, I was just about to finish
Very,
my.
very, very nice your phrase.
Oh,
Yellow
actually, Duryodhan
journalism.
also does that. Duryodhan goes and says that Maya Sabha, Draupadi, and all laughed, and everybody was like rolling on the floor. And Draupadi is nowhere in the picture; she's not even in the room. So Duryodhan also does that. So both of these guys are the forerunners of yellow journalism, I guess. So yeah,
Yes.
I was just going to end actually. What I was saying was Kunti is blamed for revealing that Karna was not revealing that Karna was her son all her life, but it turns out that Karna himself knew it. We don't know exactly when Karna finds out, but when Krishna goes to talk to Karna after the Bhagavatayana Parva, Karna tells him that I know Kunti conceived me in her womb through the sun, and once I was born, she abandoned me on the instructions of the sun also. I was born in this way, and under the norms of Dharma, I am Pandu's son. Karna knows this very well. It is only after this that Kunti goes and meets Karna. So, if we are, my final question is this: if we question Kunti about why she never revealed Karna was her son, shouldn't we also question Karna about why he didn't say that? We should question Surya also, of course. But why does Karna get a victim card, and why is he considered a tragic hero who never knew who his mother was, who was never accepted by his mother, and all that, when he also knew that he was Kunti's son and he never told anybody? So that's what I wanted to end with. I think somebody else can take over now.
Thank you. Amrita has said that her topic is going to take a little bit of time, so perhaps we can save this for the third episode. Pranshu, can I invite you to talk a little bit about what you spoke in the first session, uh, which is I'm trying to locate the question that had come up. That
The
yes, that
education wise, right?
correct,
So
correct. That the Dronacharya refused to teach Karna, right?
right. So as they say, everything changes a lot but remains the same. So we have very few IITs now. We had a few IITs then. So everybody basically was educated by Drona, Krip, Parshuram, and others like Drum and others. So, for example, the discussion that Karn was refused education. So, Karn was educated by both Kripacharya, Dronacharya, Parshuram as well. And they were not the only ones who you could claim that basically, this was an IIT, I said. Everybody went to the same school literally. So many of the Yadav princes were actually educated by Drona, Krip, and even Parshuram. Sarang Dhwaj and Malay Dhwaj, the Pandya princes. I mean, so okay, in one recession the name is Sarang Dhwaj, the other recession the name is Malay Dhwaj. They both were educated. They were educated by Bhishma, Drona, Krip, and uh, by Parshuram. Same with Hans and Dimbak, who star in Harivansh. The first time Krishna uses that Ashwathama Mara Gaya stratagem. So in case of Hans and Dimbak, they were the princes of Shalv, sons of Brahmadat, and they basically were also educated by, among others, Parshuram as well as Drona and Krip. And so this was like that thing that the education was denied by anybody was basically again like a lazy writing later on, and the education might have been denied in some cases. For example, Eklavya, the cousin of Krishna, son of Devashrava, I believe, Uddhav's older brother, he was denied education by Drona the second time he came to Drona. He was actually a student of Drona earlier in Harivansh. He is the student of Drona. Came and disrupted that hermitage, and Drona basically lost his job and basically came back and got a new job, basically transferred and got a job in Hastinapur. So you are looking not only at like uh, and that's when he refuses Eklavya, who is a Magadhan officer. So basically, there obviously Eklavya was denied for a political reason, or not basically because of any caste reason or any such thing. So Karn, okay, not in critical edition, but in several retellings, Dronacharya refuses to give the Brahmastra to Karn, which is basically, again, as Shivu pointed out yesterday, he was the Chanchal, right? The Chanchal man, uncontrolled movement, right? He was floating before he even got his legs, right? So realizing that a person of that nature should not be allowed to have such a powerful weapon, he was denied that, and that's why he went to Parshuram. Again, Parshuram, as we say, he's taught Bhisham, he's taught everybody, right down to Pandya princess. Bhisham is one of the gurus of Yudhisthir as well. So as I said, it was just like very few IITs. Then everybody went to all these gurus. So there's no such thing as that. Yudhishthir was educated by Parshuram. If Karn had told the truth, he would have been educated by Parshuram as well. That's basically the main thing, is that there was no educational bias there. There was no bias or a victim card that you were prevented from getting any education or any such privilege. It's just what your skills you can achieve.
Thank you, Pranshu. That was. I hope that answered the question that one listener had. Let's do one thing. I'd like to invite, if people have questions on what we have discussed today, a couple of days back, then please send in a speaker request. I'll try and approve all that I can. And then in the next 15, 20 minutes, let's take some questions from our viewers.
Yeah, Abhinav, I had some point to add something with respect to the Rasa Theory. This is something which I read. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please, Sai.
Oh, yeah. So this is something I read in the preface of the Andhra Mahabharata. It's the TTD edition, the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam. Basically, this Andhra Mahabharatamu was a retelling of Mahabharata in Telugu. The text stayed very faithful to whatever the research convention that they followed. So we don't find a lot of deviations. As well as then the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam did a scholarly commentary on that text. So there in the preface, I found something called the Rasa Theory, which determines the Nayaka's aspect, the Kathanayaka, or the hero's aspect, right? And especially because Mahabharata is all about valor, the Mahabharata heroes are characterized by Veera Rasa. And in the Veera Rasa, there are three sub-components in the Veera Rasa. One is Dharma, the other is Dana, and the third is Shrungara. So Krishna is one example where all these three components balance out very beautifully, and the right variant of Veera Rasa comes through when needed. So he is happens to be the perfect hero. But to be any hero, you need to have two of these components, either Dana, Shringara. Like Dana, Shringara is Dharma and Shringara, that is Nala, and Dharma and Dana, that is Yudhisthira, right? And the Dharma and Shringara, that is Arjuna, right? So these are the components that are needed for the hero. And the scholar makes a point about Karna here, saying that Karna, like Krishna, he had all the three rasas. It's just that the wrong variant of the rasa kept coming up. When when Dharma was needed, he chose something else. When Dana was needed, he chose something else. When Shingara was needed, he chose something else.
Yeah, Pratilom. He's
Something
a
like that.
Pratilom. Basically, yeah, that's what he
I remember this when Kumar was talking about the displacement that Karna experienced in the last discussion. So I just wanted to close this with.
Yeah,
Thank
in
you,
Garg,
Sai.
yeah,
That was very, very interesting. Thank you for that. A couple of people who had requested to speak, I have made them speakers. So you can, if you can please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yes.
I'm actually trying to get back to my roots. My only one question is, if you actually, since last year I'm trying to read all the Puranas and everything from Satya Yuga to everything. And if you see the Satya Yuga, or I mean, if you see from the time of Parshurama is trying to increase the Brahmanika Dharma by actually eliminating Kshatriya Dharma, right? And then if you see the Rama, there is no actually desire, there is only dharam paripalana, right? If you actually go to Dwapar Yuga, there is people who are eligible to rule, and there are people who are not eligible to rule, actually looking for only the desire, only the kursi, kursi desire, right? And now my question is seriously thing. I consider from the period of Buddha to Kalki is Kali Yuga. And do you seriously think this Kali Yuga is the curse of Karna? That's my question. That's nothing else.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Anyone wants to take that question and respond?
so it's Pranshu here. So basically, the idea of the four ages was designed to educate the humanity. So in the Satyug, basically everything is all the 4 feet of dharma rupi cow is on the earth. So there is really perfect age. There's no In a perfect age, there is no innovation, there's no change, there's no desire to innovate, because you're already perfect. And that's where the main idea which Aurobindo also talks about is that what is basically these ages. This is the Maya of Brahma, that something to change the system so that it becomes better. So then you have one leg goes away and you have Treta Yoga, and where you have a very great warrior shown, basically a warrior as well as a leader called Ravan. But he has one problem. He has one major flaw, which is basically his lust. So basically, that lust is the one which brings down that whole paradigm in itself, because that's why Rama comes there, right? And so in Dwapar, the two of these goes away. So Dwapar is literally a neutral age. So that's where basically your dharma and adharma are on balance here. And now Kali Yuga is where the adharma is high, so you have to persevere and innovate. So it's not really a curse of Karna. Kali Yuga is sort of a boon of the gods to us to try to make it better so that we can have that, the cycle again. We basically have the wheel turn again to the Satyug. So it's more of a boon rather than a curse. People see, that's why the word for in Hindi for Kal, the machine is Kal. This is the machine age, and machine is helping us basically do something. We are feeding 7 billion people on Earth now. Where basically, if we had just used agriculture and no machines, we would be only feeding 2 billion people. So think about it. It's not. No, never think of anything such as a curse on anything. That's my thinking. And no, never think of everything is look upon it as an opportunity. The second part of it is that now concerning Karn. Karn was a person who did not learn, and Kali Yuga is about learning it. And people actually forget that there is actually an avatar before Parshuram. That was Mr. Vaman. Vaman
Vaman.
came, yeah, Vaman actually for decreasing adharm. He actually came to decrease dharm because Mahabali, the future Indra, the Indra in the next age, right? The next cycle when it will start, in Mahabali will be the Indra. Mahabali was trying to Satyug forward right in the very beginning. He was skipping all these Dwapar, Treta, and other systems and Kali because he wanted to bring it, because he wanted to save the people. And Vaman comes and interrupts that because Vaman says, this is a learning process. We need to go through this learning process. Well, this is my take on it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Another thing. Sorry, if you guys have time, only one small innocent question. Okay. The thing is, do you seriously? One part of the first part of the question is, do you seriously think that Hiranyakashyap, all this Ravan, and then Duryodhan, all the? I mean, do you think the first right wing and the left wing is right wing is the Krishna and Pandavas, and the left wing is the Kauravas? I mean, do you seriously think the main thing about the villains, or I'm, for the lack of a better word, I'm using the villains or Rakshasas, it is the narcissistic personality disorder. The last part of the question, what I want to ask is, if you actually take about Kurma Avtara, right, when Devatas and Asuras are trying to get the Amrit, and then of course there is Neelakant, and then again Vishnu came in Mohini Avatar to dive. So if you see today's media, which is a biased media, they are actually trying to gaslight with the false narratives. Do you seriously think they are taking that? And do you seriously think Max Muller is one Rakshasa who wants to take away all the Vedas from the Devatas and Manushya so that we will suffer in this period?
So actually, I'll just begin, and others can talk about it in more detail. But I'll just change this narrative. You should not see anything who basically is doing adharma or whatever. You may perceive as adharma as Rakshasa. Rakshasas were a specific group. They were literally part of us only. But they follow the Rakshasa Sanskriti, which is basically you submit everything to the leader and the leader follows it. The opposite of that was a hum. So the idea is actually very noble. Hum raksha karenge. I will take responsibility for you. So that's what the Rakshasa comes in. Even the great prime minister, which basically started the new modern Indian Maurya, the prime minister for 40 years, Katyayan, was called Rakshasa, right? Because he was protecting Magad. And same way, the point was that the brother of Ravan, the first Rakshas, you could say, was the gentleman called Kuber Vashravana, who was basically Yaksha, hum bhogenge, I will enjoy. That is responsible. That is taking joy and contentment without responsibility. So here he is talking about responsibility. So I think we actually have over time, because of Ravan association, have actually misused the term Rakshasa, and so now basically we are talking about Make in India, and we should be progressive. We should be Saksham. So we should all be Sakshas, right? Or Saksenas.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm thinking is, if I have narcissistic personality disorder,
I'll request we take a break from this particular question. This is a fascinating one in its own right, but let's come back to the question to the topic of
Sure.
Karna. So if someone else wants to speak, ask a question, please go ahead.
Yeah, yes. Mine is a request more than a question. That is, one thing is I understand that when Narada was, narrating the story of Karna, I understand that Narada says Karna was embodiment of, uh, you know, uh, greed or something like that. He says to he is an embodiment of Nafrat, something like that. He says, is that true?
I
That is
have
one
not
question.
read
He
that in the critical edition, but if someone else wants to clarify or
yeah
correct.
he calls Karna the trunk of the tree of passion. That is
Mm,
not nafrat as such. Passion is
mm,
like tamasic values, right?
mm, mm,
Things that appeal to the lower qualities of life.
mm,
He is the trunk
mm,
of that tree. Duryodhan is
mm,
that tree, and
mm,
Karn is his
mm,
enabler. So that is
mm.
what he says. Because
Okay.
all the Karn is not a bad person or a villain just like that. It's not all black and white.
Mm,
The problem is the
mm,
intention behind each and every action of Karn that was
mm,
tamasic. That
mm,
is what it means. That even
mm,
when you are doing good deeds, if your
mm,
intention itself is wrong, then it will
mm,
give you bad results, which is what happened.
mm,
Like
mm, mm,
on the face of it, you are trying to earn goodwill.
mm,
You try to do charity just to save on your income tax, not because you are generally want to help anyone else.
mm,
So basically, karma is the policy of karma is it
mm,
will judge you not just for your actions but also the intentions behind your actions. That is
mm,
what is in the Gita also. And Mahabharata is just an extension of Gita, the story of Mahabharata. And that is what Narad says, that Karn is the trunk of the tree of passion.
mm. Okay.
Yeah,
Abhinav, I
that is
have a
what it is.
point to make over here.
Mm,
In case of the Dushta Chatushtaya, that is Duryodhana, Dushasana, Karna, and
mm,
Shakuni, each of
mm,
them have
mm,
a wrong balance of Purushartha that
mm,
gets them stuck to a particular Arishad Varga that they
mm,
cannot overcome. In
mm,
the case of Karna, it was the Spardha. So the Matsarya led to Spardha
mm,
with Arjuna. So he got
mm,
fixated over there. It's
mm,
not that
mm.
everybody else did not suffer Matsarya at a different point in time, but
Yes.
they have a
Thank you.
way to overcome. Whereas
Mm, mm.
Karna, in his drift,
Okay.
he landed at the place where he
Mm,
decided that competition with Arjuna is the
mm,
purpose of his life. The competition did not have any bigger purpose. The
mm, mm.
competition had only the purpose of ego, and
Exactly.
that is
Yeah.
the limitation.
Yeah.
Because he
I'm
made,
extremely sorry. Sorry, I have to break here. I'm extremely sorry. It was not greed. I understand. It was jealousy. I
yeah, that is
understand
what
that.
Matsarya. That
Matsarya.
Matsarya resulted in Spardha
Okay.
in
Okay. Okay.
the case
Mm,
of Karna, and he lands there and never overcomes that. The Matsarya led to Kama, Krodha in the case of Duryodhana, and
mm.
that never went back. So
Okay.
all of them land there, and
Mm, mm,
they do not overcome because they do not have submit themselves to a bigger
mm, mm,
reality such as Sri Krishna. Whereas
mm,
in the case of Pandavas, they
mm,
always saw something much bigger, and
mm.
which the Kauravas and Karna they do not.
Okay. 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 And even in Adi Parva, I understand that Karna, it was written in the book that Karna was jealous of all the five Pandavas, and later it was directed only towards Arjuna. Is it right?
Well, as best as I can recall, I don't think there's, at least again, I'm going back with the critical edition. I don't think it mentions this part specifically. It could be in regional, retellings or others. Again, I'll leave this to, others to weigh in on.
Okay, I just have only one request, that as you have been comparing Karna with Arjuna, that had been the topic of the, I think, the first meet. I would like to have the third meet, at least one small part of it, a comparison between Karna and Yudhisthira.
I'm sure that will be a fascinating topic. We have more than enough qualified writers, readers, and authors here. So thank you for that suggestion. We'll definitely take that up in one of our upcoming talks. Let's take, if we can, if anyone has one more question. We are a little over the hour mark. So if anyone has any question, they can ask it. The topic, again, for anyone who's just joined in, has been Mahabharata and Karna. This is the second episode in the Twitter Spaces discussion that we've been hosting. And this is being recorded as well as the first one was recorded, and both are available from Twitter. If you go to my timeline, you'll find the link. I'll post it again once the recording to the second link is made available. So let's get one more question if anyone has one.
Hi, Abhinav. Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And as such, I don't have any question since Mahabharata is such an epic that I'm just trying to absorb all the knowledge which I have gained here. And I just want to thank you for conducting such a session, because since the time the Twitter Spaces have started, I have never have been able to attend such a session which gives so much in-depth knowledge and straight from such intellectual people. So thank you so much for conducting such sessions, and looking forward to many more based on the Mahabharata. Thank you so much to all the speakers, and especially I like the ideology of Yudh and who says that everything should be taken on the positive side, and that's a big learning for me as in general. Thank you so much, and good luck.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And this is, I think, a testament to the vast body of knowledge and passion that we have among our speakers, who have, who between them represent, I think, it's such a great body of knowledge as well as wisdom on the Mahabharata. So thank you so much for those kind words on behalf of everyone, who has been a speaker today, from Sai and Shivu and Amrita and Roopal and Pranshu and Bharathi and everyone. So folks, before I end, I'll a recap. So we have started this Twitter Spaces discussion to talk about the Mahabharata and specifically Karna. As we have realized, there are probably a few more topics on Karna that are left to be discussed. We will have a third episode of this in the next couple of days, few days definitely. We'll make use of the lull in a work schedule that is there, till the year ends, until this weekend. So we'll have a third episode. Thank you to all our speakers, and folks, if you're interested, you should definitely go and get their book or books. So Unsung Valor, as you can see in several people's DPs, Unsung Valor, Forgotten Tales from the Mahabharata, is available on Amazon and other stores, published by Bloomsbury. And you can also get all of their wonderful books. And please do tweet to us any further topics you'd like to discuss. And I'll tweet the link to the recording once it's available in a few minutes from now. Once again, thank you for joining in, and thank you on behalf of everyone here. Have a good day. Namaskar.